In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces shelled the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone, killing at least 11 civilians. In the United States, President-elect Donald Trump will ask the State Department to restrict birthright citizenship as of January 20th. And in Cuba, authorities registered a 6.1 magnitude earthquake in eastern provinces. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, at least 11 people were killed in a wave of attacks by the Israeli occupation forces in the Al-Mawasi area south of the Gaza Strip. The Zionist armed forces said that the attack allegedly targeted Hamas members located in the designated humanitarian zone near the town of Khan Yunis. During the aggression, an Israeli drone strike set fire to refugee tents in addition to attacking a civilian car and a vehicle carrying security personnel. In the aftermath, the Gaza Strip Civil Defense Services indicated they were able to recover a number of bodies and wounded from the site of the bombing.
We were sleeping in the tent. None of us is wanted, nor is anyone around us. So why are they bombing us while we're sitting in our tents? They are the ones who told us to head to the tents in the Mawasi area of Khan Yunis. So how can they bombard us with their missiles on our tents?
In Palestine on Monday, Israeli genocidal troops shelled the Nusayrat refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, leaving many dead and wounded. According to medical sources, at least 5 people were killed and over 20 were injured. The northwest of the Palestinian enclave, where this refugee camp is located, has been under attack since early morning Monday. In this context, Zionist troops hit a school that housed refugees, killing one. So far, Israel's genocidal onslaught has killed 45,259 people in Gaza, more than 70% of whom are women and children, a figure that is not conclusive as there are thousands of bodies still under the rubble. Israeli occupation forces made 10 illegal tents arrests against Palestinian citizens in the West Bank on Monday. According to social organizations of former Palestinian prisoners, the detentions by Zionist forces took place in the governorates of Hebron, Nablus, Ramallah and Bethlehem, among others. Likewise, they denounced that since the onset of the Israeli offensive in October 2023, the Tel Aviv regime increased its investigation and arrest operations in civilian populated areas in the Gaza Strip. The recent wave of Israeli repression coincides with the constant bombings on Palestinian families that have claimed over 45,000 lives, mostly those of women and children. The Iranian government reaffirmed its support for the sovereignty of Syria and stressed that this country should not become a safe haven for terrorism. Regarding the latest development in Syria, Iran emphasized that its main stance is to preserve the sovereignty and integrity of this country and that Syrians should decide on their future without foreign interference. Government authorities further warned that all countries should be careful not to normalize Israel's psychological warfare and its plan to create insecurity in the region.
In the future, based on the approach of the ruling authorities, we will decide on our relations. The current situation in Syria is unclear. It is important that Syria does not become a safe haven and a place for the rise of terrorism.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, President-elect Donald Trump will ask the State Department not to grant birthright citizenship as of January 20th. According to the President-elect's team, among the eventual measures from Trump's second administration will be not issuing passports to children with undocumented parents and tightening requirements for tourist visas. In this sense, Trump is a candidate developed his 2024 election campaign with an anti-immigrant rhetoric and promised the largest deportations in the U.S. history. Sources familiar with the issue assured that the plans of not granting birthright or citizenship would end in a legal battle that would go all the way to the Supreme Court. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump reiterated his threat to Panamanian officials, assuring that if they do not follow the relevant instructions, they will have to hand over the Panama Canal to Washington promptly and without question. In a statement, Trump stressed that if the Panamanian government fails to comply with orders, he will demand that the interoceanic waterway be returned to Washington in its entirety. Likewise, the U.S. President-elect emphasized that if Panama cannot respect the historic agreement of warranty a safe, efficient and reliable operation of the canal, then it should be taken away from them. Furthermore, Donald Trump assured that the United States will not tolerate that Panama wants to ignore its instructions.
But it was given to Panama and to the people of Panama, but it has provisions. You got to treat us fairly, and they haven't treated us fairly. If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America in full, quickly, and without question. I'm not going to stand for it. So to the officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly.
In this context, China reaffirmed its support to Panama in the face of the U.S. threats regarding the sovereignty of the canal.
The Panama Canal is a great creation of the Panamanian people and a golden waterway that promotes global connectivity. China has always supported the Panamanian people in their just struggle to preserve the sovereignty of the canal.
South Korean police found evidence of provocative plans against North Korea as part of the investigation launched into the executive over martial law decree. The material was among the possessions seized from the residence of former military intelligence commander No Sang-won, who is currently detained. The police report accounted for a memorandum of some 70 pages detailing an attack on the northern boundary line and the inter-Korean maritime border. The discovery reinforces the frequent allegations by North Korea, which the United Nations Security Council has disregarded several times. Russian Defense Ministry announced Monday that its armed forces liberated the major Storoshive village in Donetsk. The military briefing ensured that liberating such village, located about 5 kilometers southwest of Belka-Novosilka town, was a key breakthrough. It is worth remarking that Storoshive is close to Zaporozhye, where the Russian army has been deployed. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian troops have suffered casualties in the 46th and 79th Brigades, according to Russian war correspondents. Moreover, they claim to be trapped in what they described as the Kurakovo sack in all. The heaviest clashes are being staged between Selenovka and Ulalki areas, where the key interception for the transit of troops and vehicles to Zaporozhye is located. Switzerland announced that it will not hold a second conference on Ukraine, stressing that it is preparing to hold ceasefire talks. The Swiss diplomatic department specified that the main issue now is the preservations for the ceasefire talks. For its part, the Russian embassy in Bern declared its readiness for a constructive dialogue on the situation in Ukraine, with the Swiss representatives recalling that the attempts of the Western countries to impose the Kiev-style peace formula on Russia will not change the situation. The Russian government reported at least 2 dead and several injured after an explosion in an industrial building in Abkhaz city in the southern Siberia. The governor said that the incident occurred due to a safety regulation breach in a routine operation. In this regard, the deputy governor of the province explained that the accident was due to the explosion of a vessel during some hydraulic test and detailed that the investigations have begun to find its owner. In the aftermath of the incident, the authorities informed 2 people died and several were injured, adding no material damages were reported. The alliance of Sahel states, made up of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, declares itself on high alert following the actions of the Economic Community of West African States. ECOWAS extended the suspension of the 3 countries for another 6 months. Its leaders claim that this is a unilateral decision that prevents successful cooperation between the 2 alliances. They described the decision as an attempt at destabilization by a few heads of state of the alliance and warned that they are serving imperialist and neo-colonialist ambitions. The Alliance of Sahel States accuses foreign powers of carrying out a false withdrawal from the region. We have a second show break coming up, but first we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake shook eastern Cuba early Monday morning. The National Center for Seismological Research reported that the tremor was registered at 1 a.m. local time. Preliminary data from the entity indicated that it occurred some 35 kilometers southwest of Chivirico, main town of Guamá municipality in Santiago de Cuba province. Experts further detailed that the earthquake has been felt in Santiago de Cuba, Guantánamo, Camagüey and Ciego de Ávila. In addition, the authorities reported there are no registered deaths, injured or significant material damage, noting they keep monitoring the seismological activity in the area. The Ecuadorian Parliament joins families of the missing miners on December 8, 2024 in their denunciation in the Guayaquil city. Lawmakers presented Sunday an amicus curiae, Friends of the Court briefs, in favor of the parents of those missing in order to safeguard freedom of ones deprived of the rights in an illegal manner. As part of the support initiatives, the legislature summoned for Monday a plenary session in a virtual way to denounce and address the case for which high military commanders were subpoenaed. According to the complaint, the miners were intercepted by the military during an anti-crime operation where, according to their families, they were beaten by the offenders after a call received by one of the victims. In El Salvador, social movements continue to protest the thousands of layoffs being implemented by the government as a pressure from the International Monetary Fund to reduce public spending. During the activity called El Cacerolazo, social organizations expressed their rejection of the illegal layoffs carried out by the government of President Nayib Bukele. The demonstrators also expressed their concern for the impact that these cuts have on essential public services, highlighting the closure of healthcare units. It should be noted that the layoffs affected employees of ministries, autonomous agencies, municipalities, and entities such as the Supreme Court of Justice and the Supreme Electoral Court. On Monday, Salvadoran civil society, political movements and the church protested against Parliament's approval of metal mining. Salvadorans made an open national call in which they asked the legislature not to approve the metal mining law so that the people's health and the environment do not suffer. The Salvadoran left movement affirmed that mining is not socially responsible. This Monday, the National Assembly would approve the new law in the plenary session. In this regard, the Archbishop of San Salvador, José Luis Escobar, warned priests, nuns and parishioners of the threat posed by the approval of this law. In Venezuela, Attorney General Tarek William Saab reported a new day of evaluations of judicial cases related to the post-electoral violence. In coordination with the judicial power, 177 revisions have agreed upon for those prosecuted after the serious events that sought to generate a civil war after the presidential elections of July 28th. To date, a total of 910 releases from prison have been granted in the framework of the due process warranted by the Constitution of the Republic. The Attorney General said the Public Ministry will continue the process of exhaustive review of these cases in defense of peace, justice and human rights. And the Venezuelan government works intensively on the development of the 18 key sectors of the economy as part of the national plan for the country's recovery. Oil Minister Delcy Rodriguez supervised the production system capacity of the Western Basin in Zulia State and inspected the Ana Maria Campos petrochemical complex and the Bajo Grande thermoelectric plant. Venezuela plans to increase its oil production up to 2 million barrels per day, besides exporting gas for the first time in its history. We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.
Today, as the world continues to spin with headlines that tell stories of challenges, triumphs, or losses, Christmas invites us to pause, even for a moment, to reflect on the essentials.